Hey there, everybody. Welcome to our The Curse Season 1, Episode 10 finale reaction and reveal. Okay,
Is that you floating away?
yeah, that's actually the video
Oh
here. We're
no.
done now. I'm gonna have to go into. Okay,
Oh my god, please don't unsubscribe.
what? What? What?
It was a crazy finale. I mean, there are so many interpretations online of what happened. Why was Asher floating away? Was this a dream? Was this literally happening? Is he up in space with Nandor the Relentless from What We Do in the Shadows? I mean, like, what happened here? We are going to break all that down with what we think, what Matt
Yeah.
thinks, what me, Jess, what I think actually happened at the ending of all this, because there's going to be debates on this till the end of time.
Yeah, and here's the thing. They said going into this that this is going to be a crazy, unpredictable finale, and I think all of
Mhm.
us were just like, okay, yeah, sure, that's fine. And
I thought someone was going to die.
I thought there was a good chance somebody was going to die. I thought there was a good chance that Whitney was going to like flee and become a lumberjack like Dexter. Like there's a lot of different ways this could have gone. If you managed to somehow figure out that Asher was going to float into the heavens at the end of this show in advance, you are either psychic and you have some sort of powers like Nala, or you lying. I don't know if there's any other explanation here.
Yeah.
Okay, we're going to get all the way into this, but before we go any further here, be sure to hit that subscribe button. We
Mhm.
have so much big stuff coming up here at the channel as
Mhm.
well, including 2 great murder mysteries premiering this weekend and Monster Spade, as well as True Detective Season 4.
Yeah, it's really exciting time here at the channel, so hit that subscribe button and stick with us. Okay, so let's start with what I think the ending actually was. For me, I feel like this was the promise that Asher made Whitney in this last episode where, he watched the tape and it seemed like she was going to leave him. And he made her this promise where he was basically like, if you don't want to be with me, and I actually truly felt that, I would disappear. You wouldn't have to tell me. You wouldn't have to say it. I would feel it and I would disappear. And then what happens in this episode? That promise has come true because Whitney has basically gotten everything she wants. She's pregnant. She's, having her baby. And while she's having her baby, he's disappearing. She's got her public pat on the back. Her show's got a second season. Like everything is working out for her in a way that she doesn't want or doesn't need Asher anymore. I mean, we even saw he was sleeping on the floor. There was a pillow on the floor. Like she's done. And that promise that he made to her, I think, is what's actually happening. Because when he was also talking to her in the last episode, there's no gravity to Asher anymore. Like, he basically was like, I'm just your puppet. Whatever you want, whatever you feel, I'm a second one of you. I don't really exist anymore. And we saw that in this episode too, with the time jump where he's talking like Whitney now. He's saying whatever Whitney would say, doing whatever she would want to do, even giving the house, like, oh, I have a push gift for you. We're going to go and see this wonderful reaction of how excited Abshir is that we gave him this house, sort of thing. And he is just Whitney. There's no gravity to him anymore. So I think that the literal sense of that is there's no gravity to him anymore. And he's just gone off into space, like I said, with Nandor the Relentless.
Okay, so it's the most important thing I think to remember here first and foremost is that yes, there's a part of this ending that is weird for the sake of being weird, and I have a big opinion of this finale. I'll get to it in a little bit, but
Oh, no.
at the end of the day, I think Nathan Fielder, Benny Safdie, Emma Stone, like there is meaning to what they gave us. This is not just, oh, look at how weird we are. It's like they are trying to get something across with this. And I think in terms of
Mhm.
like what this is meant to in some ways represent, I think you nailed it. I think a lot of it is everything that Asher has already said and said that he would disappear, and Asher would never willingly leave Whitney. I don't think he's capable of that from what we've seen. So just so happens that something otherworldly sort of did its job. Now, here's the other part of it that kind of struck me is that for a lot of seemingly Asher's life, he has fallen upward in a good way, where it
Mhm.
is he was a part of everything that happened at the casino, all these shenanigans at the casino. He did some really bad things. What ultimately happens to him, he effectively gets away with all of it. You know, he's not really seen in the footage. He's with Whitney. He ends up getting this show. He doesn't really have many discernible talents, and yet here he is at the end of the show with the woman that he loves, with success, with all of these sort of things, and he's never really felt some element of punishment for the bad things that he has done. I mean, of course, we can wonder, okay, why is the curse punishing him when they're not really punishing almost anyone else? But I think there is sort of a dark irony to now he's falling upwards in the most dangerous, perhaps deadly way ever. And one of the other things we've talked a lot about all season long is this idea of, okay, the curse is what they're doing to this community. And I do think it's pretty striking that when Asher goes up on that tree branch, nobody really actually wants to help him in town, including this fire department. And we saw them go to the fire station earlier this
Mhm.
season. It's all just sort of a joke that, okay, this guy's just crazy. Let's just get the crazy man out from the tree. And then at the end of the episode, everybody's just like, oh, it must have just been for the show. And nobody's even taking it seriously then because they didn't actually do anything for these people other than that they thought that they were a joke.
Yeah, I mean the other interpretation is that this is actually a curse that's happened to him. Now, whether that's Nala put this curse on him and, had taken the chicken away and now she took the gravity away
Yeah.
and now he's floating up into space. I mean, yeah, it's possible. I mean, when they went to the house, she wasn't there and we didn't actually see her again. I don't think that it's actually Nala's curse
Yeah.
at all. That for me, that one's out. But you guys let us know in the comments what your interpretation of this ending is, because I mean, like, I don't think there's any wrong answers here.
Yeah.
I think everybody's answer is right because this is very open to interpretation. But is this the curse that Asher put on himself? I mean, we saw that she gave this little chicken thing, and then, oh, there happened to be no chicken in his pasta. And then all of a sudden, he's starting to see chicken in places that there, shouldn't be chicken, and nobody's putting it there. So we've seen a little bit of weird mystical in this whole series. So is it possible that he's then putting that on himself as the curse of, sort of like what I said, there's no gravity to him anymore. So he's manifesting what's happening to himself. And now there's no gravity literally, and he's gone.
Let's look at a couple of other theories I think that are also still out there as well. There is did Dougie curse him? Because Dougie
Mhm.
had that line of "I curse you," and in this episode, he does have a little bit of a reaction at one point where you can see he's sort of
A little bit. Oh my goodness, he's crying on the ground.
okay, Doug, I have more on Dougie later, but it is just like he's got a reaction to all of this. I don't think Dougie actually cursed him. I think Dougie was just upset in the moment. I don't think that I know this is weird to say in a show that apparently has the capabilities to just send someone into heavens, but I don't think that there's a literal curse that Dougie put on him. I also don't think that we're meant to come out of this being like, oh, this is all just a dream. Like, I know that's an interpretation that's
Mhm.
out there. It's easy to sort of say, this has to be a dream sequence because nothing else on the show is anywhere near this weird. I just think from what I understand about the creators of the show and how weird that they were never going to be like, oh, yeah, this was just all a dream or a metaphor at the end. I think they were like, this actually happened, deal with it. And I think that's where they're sort of walking away from this.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to know, right? Like, I don't know if the creators are ever going to really come out and be like, this is exactly what this ending is supposed to be. I think that they very purposefully made it like this so that we would all be talking about it afterwards and trying to figure it out ourselves.
I will say this, there can't be a season 2 after this. Like, I know that there have been interviews and things about,
Asher in space?
okay, maybe if it's Asher in space and maybe Asher actually meets some other aliens and he realizes that he was secretly an alien all along, then maybe I'm on board with that. But no, it's just like any sort of season 2 you do after this, like you have to try to explain this, and there is no explaining this. So I don't see how you can sort of put the toothpaste back in the tube. I think it's just you got to just sort of put this ending out into space and then just have that represent the show for better or perhaps for worse.
Unless they do come back and they're like, it's all a dream. And if they do that, I think that's just going to be, for me personally, just the biggest cop out. I don't think for the people who, hate the show, it doesn't matter. For the people who really love the show, that is not a satisfying ending. Like
Yeah.
it's the evil twin. It's just a dream. Like nobody wants that ending. That ending wouldn't land well enough for what this show is doing and trying to do. Like, the people out there that really love the show, they're like, this is the best show ever, highest caliber. Would you guys feel good if it was like, this was all a dream? I mean, yeah, it's kind of a cop out. I don't think that they're going to go that way. But if you want, Nathan to be Asher again in a season 2, how do you make that happen?
I just don't think you can. And I don't think that's something that they should really be even thinking about. I mean, who knows? Emma Stone's probably going to win an Oscar pretty soon. She's got other things going on in her life. I don't know how you even bring her back.
No, it feels like it's tied up at this point. Like if they bring back the curse for another season, for me, it feels like it needs to be its own thing, like, True Detective, which you mentioned that we're going to be covering. It's coming up here on Sunday, where every season is its own thing. Or Fargo, which we also cover here at the channel. Every season is its own thing. And I think that if they want to do it that way, that they'll be able to make another season.
Okay. We're almost 13 minutes in. Put on your hard hats, everybody.
Oh, no.
I hated the second half of this episode. It was so much. Hey, look how smart and innovative we are. We're gonna just be weird. We're gonna throw this up against the wall. And okay, here's the thing. I have a lot of respect for people who take chances. And I have a lot of respect for this show, and I have throughout the entire process. I still think it is a blast to talk about. Like, I really love things that are weird and innovative, and I appreciate that in the year 2023, where we have 2 million Marvel shows, here is an actual original idea.
Mm-hmm.
The ending felt like they didn't have any confidence in the rest of their show. And it felt like, okay, why not just have a dinosaur go through town and eat people at this point? Like, it just felt like I love weird. I love doing things that are weird, but it felt like you put so much time into the finale, into this specific ending that, yes, I know has some meaning, that it took away from the entire show that you had been building up to at that point. The first half of this episode, and we'll get into some individual things, I thought was great. I thought the first half of this episode was my favorite thing that the curse has done throughout the entire show. And I'm just like, I'm really on board with this. And then you take this complete swerve just to show that you can, and just so that you can have people extract this really specific meaning. It just didn't work. And I'm not saying it's as bad as the end of The Idol, but it's not that far off in some ways, because the end of The Idol, it was also just sort of like, I hate that show so much. And the end of The Idol just completely undid the entire purpose of the show. I don't think this does that, but it felt to me very much like, let's just do something really weird. We can get a meaning across, but you could have gotten a meaning across in a lot of other ways that still kind of somewhat fit the world of your show, or at the very least gave us something that had an element of reality and an element of supernatural, so that we could debate what was real and what's not. I don't think we can debate this. I just think it's supernatural and weird. There's no evidence that it's a dream. So I just can't stand what they did at the end of this, because they just didn't have to.
I think that they built up the smallest bit of supernatural. Like it's so tiny, like so tiny. Like, I'm not even talking about him losing his chicken from the pasta. That's just, like, to me, a coincidence.
Yeah.
The chicken that was actually sitting in the bathroom is the only real sort of possible supernatural thing that can still be explained away. Like, this show just didn't really have much of a supernatural element. And I think if they had played up the curse a little more and just brought a little more of a possibility of a real supernatural thread, then by the time we got to here, it would be like, oh, okay. I mean, I've mentioned this already, Nandor the Relentless. He is from What We Do in the Shadows. It was an excellent show. It's so funny. It's a mockumentary about vampires. So there's already a supernatural element that comes with it. they did something kind of similar where they sent one of the vampires up into space. And even with that, where I'm like, we have vampires and all kinds of supernatural
Yeah.
things, even then I was like, vampires in space. I don't know, guys. And that's a show that is about vampires. So when we're here on The Curse, where it's like you've given us very little supernatural, then all of a sudden he's flying up into space. I was like, for me, I don't know if he actually did or not, or if this was all sort of this metaphor of him losing his own gravity, of him giving this promise that he would, not be there. If Whitney was ever really done with him, he would know, and she wouldn't have to say it, and he would just disappear, and then this happens.
I just feel like there are so many other ways that this show could have gone to get this same exact message across. And I'm just frustrated that they went in this particular route just because they wanted to go out there and say, hey, look what we can do. And, visually, yeah, it was pretty impressive that they were able to shoot Asher in that way, where especially when he was on the ceiling. And
Oh, yeah, it was amazing.
yeah, I was sitting back and being like, okay, this is impressive. Like the craftsmanship of it, like I have no criticism of that whatsoever. It's just everything else surrounding it. I don't get it. I was even fine with Nandor in space just because I was able to buy into the concept of that show. And because of that, I was able to buy into exactly what was going on there. I struggle a lot with buying into this just because of there's something called the intentional fallacy. That's basically like, we can really get ourselves into problems when we're just trying to assume what the intention is for something. And I sit back and I'm just like, okay, what's the intention that we're supposed to have after watching this? And for me, like, I'm just laughing at the end of this show because I don't think I'm meant to take it seriously at all. I just feel like it's so dumb and ridiculous. And I don't think that's what they intended for me to be feeling. And because
No.
of that, I have to sit here and be like, okay, that was bad, because I just feel like it's just a joke. And I don't think the rest of the show was a joke, even though there were some funny moments that were in it.
No, I agree. I don't think that this show is supposed to be a joke. It's, would remind me of The Bear. And I know The Bear just won all these like best comedy, The Bear.
Yeah.
Like, stop. Like, it's an amazing show. It is an intense show. It deals with a lot of really tough, chaotic situations. But it is not a comedy. It is a drama that has some comedic moments, and so is The Curse. The Curse has some comedic moments, but there's like some really intense, dark like topics that they are talking about in this and facing in this.
Okay, so I have my 3 favorite funny moments in the
Mhm.
finale. We'll talk about those in a minute, but first, Rachel Ray. Congratulations, Rachel Ray. This is no slight to Rachel Ray. I don't watch a lot of daytime talk shows. This is the first time I heard Rachel Ray's name in at least like 3 years, but good on her and Vincent Pastore for willing to be a part of this super strange. The entire opening of this I thought was just genius, but the way in which they did it, like it felt fully like a Rachel Ray segment, to the extent that Asher and Whitney are just sitting there awkwardly, just like smiling through this whole routine. It's very clear that Rachel Ray does not care whatsoever about their show. She doesn't even like it. Some production aide gave her these like earth-friendly wipes so that she could seem like, oh, look at me, I'm a part of y'all's cause. I agree with it. Like, it was just, I thought all of that was just genius, incredibly well done.
Yeah, I agree. It was really well done.
Yeah, I loved all of that. I thought the whole, baby room and the passive house thing was interesting. Like, that's another theory I forgot to mention earlier, that the passive house was punishing them for putting something in there and that the house was taking revenge.
I actually was wondering if something like that was happening, that it was kind of like, not necessarily that it was like possessed or anything like that, but that it was them getting sort of that tricky with things and like changing things where it's like, oh, we're selling this dream of like, passive living, but now that we're going to have a baby, let's just hide the AC panel. Let's do this a little bit differently so that, we'll change it back later, but we don't want people to know that we're actually living the way everybody else is living. We still want this to be the illusion of passive living, and that it was all the house was like legit just kind of like backfiring on them.
Yeah, there's a whole thing, smoke and mirrors. This is a house literally of mirrors, and it's so ridiculous. Okay, here are the three funniest moments of this episode, and because these moments are so funny, it's why I had really high hopes for the second half of this, and why I'm so angry coming out of it. But number one, the dead funniest moment of the entire show. I had to pause the show to contain myself. The moment that Abshir says, "Who's paying the property taxes?" It killed me. I was laughing so hard. It was so funny. It was just so cringy. I knew it was probably coming. It was just the delivery of it was amazing.
It was really funny. He was great. I mean, and it's a fair question. Like,
Yeah.
if you don't have money and you're being gifted something, like I hear this all the time of people that like, oh, I won a Tesla or I won a Porsche. And it's like, okay, but you can't really pay on these winnings the taxes that you would have to pay on something that's like $100,000 or $300,000, and they end up not really being able to keep it.
Yeah, the scene played out really well in between Abshir's delivery, them trying to contain their disappointment, that there being just like a guy just running around in the background, and they're like, "Who is he?" And Abshir doesn't really give that much of an answer. Like the entire scene was just straight incredible. It's probably like my favorite 4 or 5 minutes of the entire season. Okay, number two. Not the baby in your belly, the baby in the tree, which I just was like, okay, this is definitely how Abshir was seeing. I mean, not Abshir, how Asher was seeing himself in
Yep.
that moment. Yes, I hated the rest of the ending. I love that line. It was great. Finally, my dad did the same thing. He didn't climb up a tree, but he ran away. This Dougie packed heat in this one moment, and it was like, okay, I suddenly understand Dougie a whole lot more than I did before.
I thought that was a really interesting talk with Dougie as well. Sort of the idea of he thinks that Asher's panicking because the baby's about to be here and that he's trying to get away from the responsibility of it and that he's unable to handle the pressure of it and he's up this tree. I thought that was a really interesting interpretation of what was going on. For a minute, I was like, is that what's going on?
Yeah,
Is he having a panic?
it was fair to think that there was something along those lines. Like, I thought for the entirety of this ridiculous ending that Asher was eventually going to come back down to Earth. Like, I didn't think it was going to end with him just floating away. But no, and Dougie, I never felt like I got a great enough sense as to who Dougie really is. And like, I'm coming out of this a little bit frustrated about that. And maybe that's the point, but it's just like in between him. We heard a little bit about Kara and her "I'm not an artist anymore" thing. It's just like there were, though, all these supporting characters that I don't feel like we got that much of an ending to, especially with the way that their stories were told over time.
Get ready for season 2.
No,
Kara's tale.
I will not get
Kara
ready.
and Dougie.
Okay,
No, they don't need to bring this
No.
back for season 2.
no, like, congratulations, guys. You made the show that you set out to make. That is a very impressive thing in this current climate. I'm sure there are some people who will love it. I'm sure there will be people in the comments telling me that I didn't get it. And you know what? That's fine. I got it. It's just not what I wanted to get.
Yeah, I think that you can get something and still not like it. You
Yeah.
know what I mean? Like, I don't think it's about, not getting it or not getting the interpretation. Again, this is an ending where I think for me, there's no wrong answers on how you interpret what happened. But if you don't like it, you don't like it. And that has nothing to do with not understanding or not having your own interpretation of what happened. You can
Yeah.
just not like something, and that's okay. And if you didn't like it, let us know in the comments. And if you did like
Yeah.
it, let us know why.
Yeah, and at the end of the day, I'm not sitting here and being like, "Oh, I'm so mad I watched this show now." Like, I'm really grateful that I had this experience. It's such a strange, unique show, and there's not a lot of opportunities to watch something like that, let alone discuss it. Like, I'm thrilled that it's out there. It's just sometimes you don't always get what you want in life. Sometimes you just soar off into the sky, never to be seen or heard
Oh
of
my
again.
goodness.
Okay, we'll wrap all this up. We got to go watch some Rachel Ray, but hit that subscribe button. Also, join our Patreon. We have a link in the description over there. Live streams every week about the curse. We have a lot more to say there, and we will see you guys here next time.